At 8:40 in the evening on the 25th of April this year, last night, a 31-year-old man from Torrance, California, ran the magnetometer at the Washington Hilton Hotel. He was carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. Inside the ballroom, the President of the United States, the First Lady, the Vice President, and members of the Cabinet were taking their seats for the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The man fired at least one shot. A Secret Service agent stepped in front of the gun and was hit. The vest stopped the round. Within 90 seconds, the president was off the stage. Within 65 minutes, he was back at the White House. The man's name is Cole Tomas Allen. By morning, he had been charged with using a firearm during a crime of violence and assault on a federal officer. His motive, as of the recording of this video, is unknown. He is the fifth named person to actively attempt to kill Donald Trump in 21 months. The hotel he ran into is the same hotel where John Hinckley Jr. shot Ronald Reagan on the 30th of March, 1981. A note before we begin: this video is not, in any direction, a political video. It is a chronological one. The 5 people we are about to walk through in order have one thing in common. They were not running for office. They were not commentators. They were not, with one significant exception, agents of any foreign state. Each of them, by the public record of U.S. federal prosecutors, took a weapon and put themselves into a position to use it on the same man. By the end of this video, you will know all 5 names, the dates, the locations, the weapons, the distances, and the people who stopped them. You will hear the 2 parallel cases, Asif Merchant and Farhad Shakeri, that mark the first time in modern U.S. history that a foreign state has been credibly alleged in court filings to be running a contemporary murder-for-hire operation against an American president. You will see the threat volume data that the Department of Homeland Security itself describes on the record as without modern precedent. And you will see the part the news coverage of the last 24 hours has, with one exception, not yet stopped to underline. The Washington Hilton was already on the list. It has been on the list since 1981. Thomas Matthew Crooks was 20 years old. He lived in Bethel Park, a suburb south of Pittsburgh. He had graduated from a community college with an associate's degree in engineering science the year before. He worked as a dietary aide at a nursing home. He had a registered Republican voter status. He had also, in January 2021, donated $15 to a progressive political action committee. By every account from people who knew him, he had no public political profile of any kind. On the afternoon of Saturday, the 13th of July, 2024, Crooks traveled to the Butler Farm Show Fairgrounds in Butler County, Pennsylvania. The event was an open-air rally for the Trump-Vance presidential campaign, scheduled to begin at 5 p.m. Crooks brought with him an AR-15 style rifle. He climbed onto the roof of an AGR International building outside the rally's security perimeter, approximately 130 meters from the stage. At 6:11 p.m., he opened fire. He fired 8 rounds. The first bullet grazed Donald Trump's upper right ear. 3 audience members were hit. Corey Comparatore, a 50-year-old retired volunteer fire chief, was killed protecting his wife and daughter. James Copenhaver and David Dutch were both critically wounded. 4 seconds after Crooks began firing, a member of the Butler County Emergency Service Unit shot at his rifle and damaged it, preventing him from continuing. 12 seconds later, the United States Secret Service counter-sniper team shot and killed him. The investigation that followed was, in the FBI's own characterization, one of the most extensive ever conducted into an attack on a U.S. political figure. It produced, in the end, no motive. The Bureau's public conclusion was that Crooks had acted alone and that he had selected the Butler rally because it was, in the FBI's phrasing, a target of opportunity. His online activity in the months before had drifted from pro-Trump material to anti-Trump material. He had reportedly considered other public figures as targets first. The agency director who summarized the investigation for Fox News in 2025 used a phrase that, given the year of work behind it, is worth quoting. There is no motive for it. There is no reason for it. Ryan Wesley Routh was 58 years old. He was a roofer by trade. He had spent the previous 2 years in and around Eastern Europe, attempting, in his own description, to recruit Afghan veterans to fight in the Russo-Ukrainian War on the Ukrainian side. He had self-published a book on the subject. He had given multiple interviews to international press. He had, at the time of the events that follow, been arrested and convicted on weapons charges in North Carolina more than a decade earlier. On the morning of Sunday, the 15th of September 2024, he traveled to the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. He carried with him an SKS-style rifle. He had, according to a letter recovered by federal investigators, been planning the trip since at least February. He hid in the shrubbery just outside the perimeter fence of the golf course. He stayed there for approximately 12 hours. Donald Trump, then the Republican nominee for president, played a round of golf that morning. As Trump's group walked the fifth hole, a Secret Service agent named Robert Furcano swept the sixth ahead of them. Furcano saw the barrel of a rifle move in the bushes, approximately 400 yards away. He fired 4 rounds toward the rifle. Routh dropped the weapon, ran to a vehicle, and fled north. Within an hour, he was arrested by Florida law enforcement on Interstate 95 in Martin County. Routh never had a clear line of sight on Trump. He never fired his weapon. The fence and the vegetation that hid him also blocked his shot. The letter recovered from his vehicle, prepared in advance, read in part that the act was an attempt to prevent Trump from being elected. Routh was indicted on 5 federal counts. He stood trial in September 2025 and was convicted on all 5. On the 4th of February 2026, in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida, Judge Aileen Cannon sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, with an additional mandatory 7 years for the firearm offense. He is the only one of the 5 people in this video who has, to date, been sentenced. A digression about a state. On the 3rd of January 2020, a United States MQ-9 drone fired a Hellfire missile at a convoy leaving Baghdad International Airport. The missile killed Major General Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, alongside 9 others. The strike was authorized by President Donald Trump. The Iranian regime declared a public mourning. The Supreme Leader's office stated, in language that has been repeated in subsequent court filings, that harsh revenge awaits the criminals responsible. In July 2024, 2 days before the Butler rally, a Pakistani national named Asif Merchant was arrested in Houston, Texas. The criminal complaint filed against him by the FBI alleged that Merchant had traveled to the United States from Pakistan after spending time in Iran, that he had attempted to recruit a network of U.S.-based contractors to carry out the assassination of an unnamed American political figure, and that one of the people he had attempted to recruit had been a confidential FBI informant from the start. The political figure in the FBI's charging document was Donald Trump. Merchant was indicted in the Southern District of New York. He was convicted of murder for hire on the 6th of March 2026. 3 months later, on the 8th of November 2024, the Department of Justice unsealed a separate set of charges. An Afghan national named Farhad Shakeri, along with 2 New York-based co-defendants, Carlisle Rivera and Jonathan Lodeholt, were charged with a parallel murder for hire plot. The court filing alleged that Shakeri had been instructed by an IRGC official to, in the document's direct quotation, set aside other efforts and focus on Trump. The framing the IRGC reportedly gave the project was, again, revenge for Soleimani. The Merchant and Shakeri cases are separate prosecutions. Together, they constitute the first time in modern U.S. history that a foreign state has been credibly alleged in unsealed federal court filings to be operating a contemporary murder-for-hire operation against a current or former American president. The Justice Department has not, as of the recording of this video, sought to characterize either case as completed or terminated. The expectation publicly stated in court filings is that further prosecutions are likely. Mar-a-Lago is a 126-room Mediterranean revival mansion in Palm Beach, Florida. It was built in 1927. Donald Trump bought it in 1985 and now uses it as his private residence, and as what the Secret Service classifies as the Florida White House. The perimeter has been hardened progressively since the Routh attempt. Additional fencing, additional sightline controls, additional vegetation removal, additional patrol coverage. On the night of Sunday, the 22nd of February 2026, a 21-year-old man named Austin Tucker Martin of Cameron, North Carolina, approached the Mar-a-Lago grounds. He was carrying a shotgun and a gas canister. He was engaged by Secret Service personnel. He was shot and killed. The event has, to date, received less national coverage than any of the 4 other incidents in this video. The reasons for that are practical. Martin was killed at the perimeter, no shots were fired in either direction beyond the engagement, and no other civilians were involved. The investigation has not produced a public motive. What it has produced is a detail. The post-Butler protocol upgrades were specifically designed to prevent a person crossing the line of a Trump-occupied property, armed, on foot. Mar-a-Lago is not a venue with a magnetometer. It is a residence. The systems that stopped Martin were the systems the Secret Service builds at the property line. They worked. The fact that they had to work in February of this year is the part that did not appear above the fold. Cole Tomas Allen is 31 years old. He grew up in Torrance, California, in the South Bay of Los Angeles County. He graduated in 2017 from the California Institute of Technology with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. He completed a master's degree in computer science from California State University, Dominguez Hills in 2025. He worked part-time as a tutor at C2 Education, a national private tutoring chain, and was named C2's Teacher of the Month in December 2024. He was, in the second category of his self-description on LinkedIn, an indie video game developer. He published a small game called Boredom on Steam, priced at $1.99. In October 2024, according to Federal Election Commission filings, he donated $25 to the Kamala Harris presidential campaign. On Saturday, the 25th of April 2026, he traveled to Washington, D.C., and checked into the Washington Hilton Hotel as a guest. The annual White House Correspondents' Dinner was being held that night in the Hilton's main ballroom. The President, the First Lady, the Vice President, and members of the Cabinet were the principal table. At approximately 8:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Allen approached the main magnetometer screening area, the security checkpoint between the hotel's public spaces and the ballroom. He was carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. He charged the checkpoint. He fired at least one shot. A Secret Service agent stepped between Allen's weapon and the corridor leading to the ballroom. The round struck the agent in his protective vest. The agent was hospitalized and discharged the same night. Allen was tackled and apprehended within seconds. The president was off the stage by approximately 8:42. He departed the hotel for the White House at 9:45. By Sunday morning, Allen had been charged in federal court with using a firearm during a crime of violence and assault on a federal officer with a dangerous weapon. The charges were filed by U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro. No manifesto has been recovered. No social media post has been identified that indicates a target. The motive is not known. President Trump's public statement on the night used the words would-be assassin and lone wolf. When asked separately whether the shooting was connected to ongoing U.S.-Iran tension following the spring military exchanges, the president said, and these are his exact words, "I don't think it was linked to Iran." Beyond that, the public record on Cole Allen, as of the recording of this video, ends here. A summary, briefly, of the people who have been arrested in the same window for federal threats not yet acted on. Michael Kovko of Chicago, August 2025. Messaged the public website of the Central Intelligence Agency offering to ambush the president with, and these are his words, a heavy-caliber anti-material rifle. Nick Guadalupe Cruz Lopez, Plant City, Florida, age 20, charged with threatening to kill the president. Faces 5 years. Shannon Mathray, age 33, arrested by the Secret Service for threats against Vice President Vance. Marco Antonio Aguayo, 22, of Anaheim, arrested for threatening Vance during the vice president's visit to Disneyland. Colin DeMarco, 26, of Arlington, the 22nd of January 2026, arrested for the attempted murder of Office of Management and Budget Director Russ Vought. The Department of Homeland Security's October 2025 threat assessment names politically motivated violence as a top concern for the 2025-26 cycle and identifies online extremists as the dominant source. Roughly 30 named individuals had been arrested on related federal charges by the end of the first quarter of 2026. The department's public characterization of the volume, and this is in their own published language, is without modern precedent. A second observation briefly about a hotel. The Washington Hilton, the building Cole Allen ran into on Saturday, is the same building outside which, on the 30th of March 1981, a 25-year-old man named John Hinckley Jr. shot Ronald Reagan, his press secretary James Brady, a Metropolitan Police officer named Thomas Delahanty, and a Secret Service agent named Tim McCarthy. Reagan was hit in the chest by a ricocheted .22 caliber bullet. He was 30 feet from the limousine. He survived. The magnetometer architecture Cole Allen ran on Saturday and the protocol of putting an agent's body between a charging suspect and a principal exist in current form because of Hinckley. The reason a Secret Service agent's vest stopped around on Saturday in this hotel and not somebody's skull is that this hotel taught the service the lesson it was going to need 45 years before it was going to need it again. The third observation. No U.S. president in the modern era, defined here as the post-1963 period after John F. Kennedy, has faced this volume of credible attempts in a comparable window. 3 sitting presidents in the modern era have been the subject of a single attempted attack: Ford, Reagan, Clinton. None of them faced 5 named attempts in 21 months. Whether the next 21 months produce more, fewer, or the same is, at this stage, not an answerable question. 3 observations briefly. 1. The names are the names: Crooks, Routh, Merchant, Shakeri, Martin, Allen. The first 4 have been tried, convicted, or are in active federal proceedings. The 5th was killed in the act. The 6th is in custody this morning. The pattern is not speculative. It is a court docket. 2. The Washington Hilton is not the place this happened. It is the place this kept happening. The systems that stopped Cole Allen on Saturday were designed by the people who watched John Hinckley shoot Ronald Reagan in the same lobby on the same magnetometer line that did not yet exist on the 30th of March, 1981. 3. The question the next 12 months are going to keep asking is not the one anybody on television asked on Saturday night. It is not whether the president is safe. The Secret Service has demonstrated 5 times now that it can stop a moving target. The question is What is producing the moving targets? The Department of Homeland Security calls the threat volume without modern precedent. That phrase in the DHS's published assessments is reserved for things they do not yet have a model for. If you are watching this on Sunday morning, the most accurate thing that can be said about Cole Tomas Allen of Torrance, California, is that we do not yet know why he ran the magnetometer. The most accurate thing that can be said about the period of which he is the latest data point is that we do not yet know why the period is producing him. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, about the things quietly reshaping the United States, money, work, and the people running it, subscribe. Next episode, that Melbourne logistics company we promised, that moves more freight than Australia Post. We have not forgotten. Thank you for watching.